On vacation this week and nothing better to do, so we might as well just actually no, I have a lot of better things to do, which is one of the reasons why we're talking about what it is we're talking about tonight. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay, and it looks like I have to adjust the plant light back a little. I was hoping to get some more purple at the bottom of the blue, but now there's just too much darn pink in the mix. So this is when this is right. This setup is supposed to look like that what is it, Kubuntu Linux background from a couple of years ago that was blue with a little bit of purple on the bottom. Of course, it would be better if I stopped using traditional bulbs and did more with LED strips to brighten things up a little more. But I don't want to get to, the problem is the blue that I'd like to have in the background is a middle blue, not like a, like the brighter bluish greenish stuff that you see there. It's just a matter of light being light and what it is and stuff along those lines. But I'm on vacation this week, so everything is going to be completely out of whack and out of order. Nothing is going to go the way that it normally does. And part of that is a chat stream at this time of night on a Sunday. Then a big, long laundry night. Then a big, long laundry night with everything. Clothes, bedding, the shower curtains even, because I have a cloth shower curtain. I don't know how the heck that thing even gets dirty, but I figured just run it through the wash. So literally just laundry all night. Not that I can really do anything else anyways, because we had some ice crap at the end of the week last week. So the driveway is very much rinked right now, and it doesn't warm up until somewhat tomorrow. We're getting some freezing rain, unfortunately, but I can see the air bubbles under the ice. So I could probably throw some yak tracks on some shoes and head out there and grab the shovel with the metal thing on the end and actually chop the ice and get the driveway back down to tar, and hopefully not too much stuff falls when I go to do that. Let me tell you a little something about winter in Connecticut. Snow, we get it from time to time. We get snow in Connecticut like any other New England state, but because we are close to the ocean, we tend to get more of a wintry mix, and that is the major enemy in the winter time, because I get people making fun of me because I grew up a little bit in Massachusetts where snow tires were more of a thing, whereas around here people cheese it with all-season radials as much as they can. But snow tires are useless on ice. You need studs for that. And there's actually laws about when you can have these things on your cars and stuff. Some things coming in the chat already, so we might as well just get the darn music going. The main discussion tonight obviously is about LinusTechTips' little fiasco where he called using an ad blocker a form of piracy. Well, I'm looking at some of Linus's numbers, and he's basically me a couple of years ago. If you folks remember the rant I did about whether or not ad blockers hold back tech videos on YouTube, that was because YouTube was a lot less transparent back then. Today you have people talking about how YouTube is, they got a system for discoverability, and then they have the system for monetization, and they're kind of separate. Plus, you can get videos that get a lot of views that don't make a lot of money by chasing trending topics. So even if you do get ad blocked and stuff, because it's trending, the algorithms will probably pass it around. My little joke skit about the my little joke skit about playing Forza Horizon 4 with no graphics card is basically my old skit with Forza Horizon, playing Forza with no graphics card is a great example of that. I'm actually thinking of very seriously setting up a 2-PC stream setup and seeing how those Skylake integrated graphics work versus the various games that I have. Can you at least get 1080-30 out of them? If not, something else. Let's see what we got here. So here, let's just get through the meat of the discussion. I talk a lot about how as YouTube needs to be a form of social media where we're all I realize that internet friends are not the same as real friends, but the lack of personable, whatever you want to call it, has just been bothering the heck out of me lately. And you look at YouTube and you see the problems they have. You see how YouTube has gone too corporate. You see how Susan Wojcicki, with her big marketing background, has turned YouTube into a giant marketing mess. Then you look at Twitch, where people say, even though the platform is much smaller and has much less professional management and has much less to offer, people want to be Twitch streamers because they feel a sense of community on Twitch that they don't feel on YouTube. So that's really at the core of all of this, is this idea that somewhere along the way, we kind of lost our ability to remember the person. I know Reddit was talking about this a while back, and Twitter will now tell you this if you write a very incendiary response to somebody's tweet, but what happened to tech video people? 5 years ago, I had a very robust comment section with people cracking memes and stuff. Then that turned into people just shouting out their specs all the time. Like, I got this for a computer. I'm like, did you even watch the video? It's like, you're over here like, oh yeah, I have this computer with this CPU and da-da-da-da. And I'll tell you, you know, bragging about hardware is very synthetic and artificial. What matters is whether the computer does what you want it to do in the first place. What are you trying to do? Email, internet? Do you want to play Fortnite? Do you want to mix videos together? Do you want to do really hardcore gaming with the graphics all the way up? Do you want to do all that and then stream on top of it? What matters is whether or not it gets done. So the whole thing is, look, there are some things on the internet that are only a thing on the internet. We can all get worked up about technological garbage like this. We can get all worked up about technological garbage like this. But at the end of the day, we can just shut the computers off, walk away, nobody's going to care. You can blow up about Linus's tweet all you want. Be like, oh, Linus, what the hell's your problem? I guarantee you, he turns off the computer, walks away, goes to the store to get a loaf of bread, and the little old lady, you know, walking around in the convenience store doesn't give, unless she knows who he is, doesn't give a darn about him. So it's like, there's a lot of stuff people get worked up on the internet where if they ever got off the internet, they'd realize just how stupid it is. Let me actually take a look at, here's my biggest criticism of Linus. I know that ad blockers are a problem, and the biggest issue that ad blockers present on YouTube is whether or not YouTube wants to focus on what makes them more money. Part of the problem with going after platforms like this is the platforms have designed it to where you cannot go after the platform without hitting the creator you allegedly support in the process. So you look at YouTube, what's their big focus right now? Oh, what's advertiser friendly? Yeah, what makes them money? So knowing that they're talking about this, even though they say that the money side of YouTube is separate from whether or not your videos get views, it still leaves the whole issue unresolved. Yeah, and you'll get merry-go-round answers maybe from Team YouTube or something along those lines. You'll get all this crap going on from people and stuff, but I can't help but think with how big and corporate YouTube is, that the money side of it isn't a thing. And if there isn't some kind of, I can't help but think there's probably some kind of tie-in with visibility in terms of who makes money. We know on the people side of things, people accuse Twitch of favoritism for not banning streamers who make them a lot of money and stuff along those lines. But either way, let's take a look at this, see what's linked up in browser mode. Get rid of live control room so it doesn't link by accident. Over to browser mode, link this sucker up. So here's Linus's tweet, right? He's jammy jams like that, huh? Here's Linus's revenue. That was the reason why he talked about ad blockers. YouTube AdSense, 18%. Linus, if ads are nearly 20% of your revenue for your business is on very shaky grounds. YouTube has been moving beyond ads with the launch of supers, channel memberships, super chat, super stickers, and even super thanks for people that want to dono videos. Although I don't think that culture doesn't really extend to videos right now. So that's why I keep seeing people saying, oh, I have it, but nobody ever uses it. Plus, you got to figure out how you're going to incorporate it. But a lot of the reasons why people dono on a live stream is because they want to see the instant reaction from the streamer. I'm not so sure that translates over very well into videos. You would really have to carve new ground, so to speak, and head out to the frontier in order to get that other stuff going over on the video side of things. Let me see something here. So YouTube AdSense, nearly 20% of the revenue. Well, there's your problem right there. Because I know Linus is, I think, a little younger than me. Maybe he doesn't remember the dot-com bubble as much as I do. But one of the reasons why the dot-com crash happened is the businesses that came out during the dot-com era were focusing heavily on using the internet instead of stuff that's done offline these days. So let me tell you, does this sound familiar, folks? Let me give you an example of one of them. People wanted you to be able to buy groceries on the internet and have them delivered to your house. Nowadays, you have Amazon Fresh, you have like Hello Fresh or whatever this like meal boxes things are that you can order. So the business has become a thing in today's world. 20 years ago, there were dot-com companies riding the wave before everything crashed that were trying to do exactly that. So there's even free internet access through NetZero and other companies that were trying to have ads pay for dial-up internet. It didn't work, and it all collapsed in a year or two, along with the dot-com crash. But if there's anything that internet advertising can teach us, especially if you've been around as long as you possibly can. Oh yeah, don't forget DoorDash. It's kind of a pseudo example of that. But the thing is, though, these people have thought for a long time that internet advertising was the solution to everybody's problems, and it is not. It absolutely is not. It's never been reliable. Look at YouTube. There were full-time YouTubers about 10 years ago that were able to be full-time YouTubers with just ads. Then YouTube drove down ad revenue so much by expanding out the partner program that they had to dial it back. And now today, YouTube versus Facebook and Twitch has the highest barriers to entry for monetization out of all the three major platforms you can stream on. 4,000 watch hours, which you basically need videos to do unless you come in with a streaming audience. If you don't have a streaming audience, you're probably not going to get one on YouTube because the way the site's designed these days. People either build up channels and get live viewers as a result of that, or they're streamers, but they're being propped by YouTube, Valkyrie, or they're coming over from another channel and bringing an audience with them. So maybe YouTube doesn't prop them up as much, but their existing audience makes the hop over to the other platform and watches them on YouTube. So it's an interesting world we live in. But advertising, I mean, if you look at the exodus of talent to Twitch, when people wanted to be streamers instead of YouTubers around the time of the adpocalypse, many big names on Twitch today went over in the mid to late 2010s, and people were upset at YouTube about all of that. I remember, like it was only yesterday, people talking about, oh yeah, well on YouTube I can just make ad revenue and maybe I can pay my internet bill with it, but I can pay my rent off of Twitch donos and people giving me their subs. Well, YouTube has kind of leveled the playing field on that with channel memberships, which I don't have turned on as it is because I want to have it at the end of a big, long tech project, but not too far after it for some of that. But it's just the thing. Linus has YouTube AdSense is way too big of a slice of this pie, especially when he's doing in-video sponsors, which how on earth does that work? And it must be something where, a playback counts as an impression, because I don't like in-video advertising. I think it's going to date the video, especially if there's a scandal with a company being advertised. So let's say something really bad happens at NordVPN and the brand is destroyed. Everybody who did an in-video ad for that either uses the editor to chop that out later on, or people are going to be making fun of them, NordVPN, because we know how YouTube is. It's evergreen. People will watch videos years after the fact. So they'll show up in the comments with things like, this didn't age very well, and stuff like that. But here's the thing. I can just arrow past a lot of in-video ads or click past it. When I say, now for a word from our sponsor, I'm like, where's that seek bar? And I'll just skip the darn thing. So I'll just skip the darn thing. Or maybe they use a YouTube chapter so I can see exactly where the ad is and click ahead of it. So in-video sponsors really, it's a necessary evil because regular ads weren't enough. But in terms of creators supporting themselves, I think it needs to go a lot further than that, using more things like supers and other stuff that YouTube's playing with nowadays, which YouTube can get themselves a cut of. That's what made it interesting when I looked at the responses to Linus's tweet on here. Oh, I skipped some ads. Skipping an ad counts as an impression. YouTube says that directly themselves in their own literature. But YouTube AdSense, 18%. 18% of Linus's revenue. Really? That's way too big. He should be moving on to things like memberships and supers and other stuff as well. And he should really be pushing super thanks if he's going to stay completely focused on videos. But this is just way too big. So if he feels vulnerable because of the whole ad blocker thing, it's because of this very specifically. Plus, we know that, of course, YouTube has become a grandmaster at plummeting the amount of ad revenue that you actually get. Most recently, the biggest thing to do that was what's called the right to monetize. YouTube wrote into the terms of service that even if you're not in the partner program, then they give themselves the right to monetize. If your video is ad-friendly, they'll put ads on your videos. So we're going to see people not in YPP that are getting mid-rolls on their videos now. Uncontrollable mid-rolls, by the way. And because the criteria for partnership are based on a couple of years ago when supers hadn't become what they are today, we have a situation on our hands where you have uncontrollable ads on your videos until you get to the point, if you can get big enough to be partnered, then you can start turning some of them off. You can stream, for example, without having video ads. So unlike on Twitch, you don't have to do the mid-roll, pre-roll dance or anything of that sort. But the thing is, just YouTube has done a darn good job of just destroying the not the CPMs, but the ad revenue that creators can get, because now the ads being sold are being spread among people that aren't even in the partner program. So there should not be any real focus on ads anymore. I mean, it's fun money. It's cool if I have a video that bankrolls a tech project or something, but I guarantee you in 99% of those cases, that video will not be a tech video. The food videos lately have been really stepping up, even as the washer and dryer video gets shut off by the system. But the thing is, it's never been tech videos that has really dominated in any of this. Tech has never been able to hold its own. That's why a couple of years ago I said what I said about ad blockers, because I knew that people were more tech savvy and stuff like that. I knew people were more tech savvy, so a more tech savvy audience would be more likely to use them. But today, there's lots of other alternatives besides ads, and ads aren't as interesting. So for Linus to come out and say, it's piracy, strikes me as nothing more than a PR move in order to tick people off so more people watch his videos and streams. Because here's how it works. The way to have the biggest audience possible is to keep your haters mad at you and just blow them off. Don't just, ban them or something if they pose a risk to anybody else. But there is such thing as running a channel with a healthy pool of haters. Because consider it this way. Let's suppose you have 10 people that can watch your videos. Let's say you have 10, let's make it really simple. Let's say you have 10 people that can watch your videos. 4 of them like you, 3 of them hate you, and the remaining 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, don't really know about you or care about you, so they're not going to watch. What gives you the bigger audience? Just the people that like you? Or the people that like you with the people that hate you kept at a reasonable distance so they don't bother you? You have a larger audience with a healthy group of haters. That's how contrarians do it. That's how people on the radio do it. That's how people that want to make you mad, because they know that's how they hook you and get you to listen to their shows, even if they're arguing, even if you're yelling at the radio half the time. Bottom line is, people who court controversy get big. People who want to grow a constructive community will end up smaller than the people that farm haters and then keep them at a safe distance. So for Linus to tell me, for Linus to come on here and tweet in 2022 that using an ad blocker is equivalent to piracy, tells me either he's working the crowds to drum up buzz and get him trending, or he's a complete idiot who's stuck in the past, circa 5 years ago. And by the way, this isn't the first time I've seen toxic crap in Linus's fan base. This is the same fan base that several years ago, almost a decade ago now, was going around telling people on Linus's forums that either they used Noctua fans in all their systems or their systems weren't as good. And so I get a bunch of dislikes by saying, wow, fanboys about fans, I'm not buying Noctua. Of course, nowadays I have some Noctua Reduxes cooling my CPUs, and I'm thinking of upgrading Monolith to Noctua Reduxes from the Fractal Venturis, but the problem is the Fractal Venturis in the computer have rubber things around the edge to cut the vibration noise. So I don't know. Do I really want to just buy a brand, so to speak, when I already make use of the 120 millimeter Noctua Reduxes? Although I should probably get a static pressure fan for CPUs. I think the 120s, I can't remember what it was. There was some weird thing they were doing. I think they were more airflow focused or something. So I might have been gimping my CPU well, no, I think it's static pressure that's available at 120 mil. But yeah, so here it is. So good old Linus poking the hornet's nest. Not that it matters anyways, because I don't watch Linus and I have his channel blacklisted because he took the wrong side in the YouTube dislike debacle last year. Him, Louis Rossman, and Marcus Brownlee. I can't believe they did that. So to make a long story short, if you are fishbowled on YouTube, you are probably upset about the dislike thing. If you know about the social media world outside of YouTube, you probably supported the dislike change. And so I see on Twitter people screeching about dislikes. It's the exact same tug on your heartstrings until you turn your brain off crap that I see with disinformation about COVID and stuff like that. And I guess this is the way it's going to settle into for the coming decades. You're going to have one group of people that actually thinks about stuff and uses their heads about stuff, and you have another group of people that are trying to work you up emotionally to the point where you stop thinking for yourself and just wing it based on your emotions. So the dislike thing, look, YouTube, I did a whole stream on this, chat stream, which is available to watch as a replay, explaining all of this. But to sum it all up, YouTube, technology-wise, is moving towards a platform that eliminates people's biases as much as possible. They said, oh, we want to protect smaller creators. Nah, that's a symptom, not the problem. They have been moving away from systems that people could game for years. Classic example would be the use of, for example, the outlawing of tag stuffing. Many years ago, if you went on YouTube and you watched a video and you looked, if it was a popular video, you could look in the bottom of the description, you would often see random words to take advantage of search robots. That was later made into the tag system, but now the tag system has been deprecated, so everything's back to title and description. Tags only cover like common misspellings and stuff, but they're not very useful in terms of your videos getting picked up by stuff. It all boils down to the title and description nowadays, and YouTube wants non-spammy stuff in titles and descriptions. So they have policies about what you put in there. But I guarantee you, if YouTube could automate even that to where the computers could do all the matchmaking and they didn't have to possibly ban YouTubers who contribute a lot to the platform because of some technicality, like say, a title that goes over the top or deceptive metadata or something like that, I bet you they would do that, because that's the direction they've been going in. They've been wanting to get away from systems that people could game and replace it with systems where computers do all the work. And part of that too is likes and dislikes. I think likes should go away as well at this point, because that way YouTube can have a completely neutral algorithm button system similar to a music service, like on Pandora or Spotify. I'm mostly familiar with Pandora because I never really got into the whole Spotify scene, but though like and dislike there was not an expression of an opinion or a vote or something like that. It was basically a way for you to say whether you wanted to hear similar songs or never hear that song ever again. So YouTube runs YouTube Music, and in the stream that I did on this a while back, we actually demoed this by switching over to YouTube Music in a web browser and showed the use of like and dislike buttons in action, and why YouTube just didn't get rid of the dislike button like many other platforms that have just heart buttons currently are very, very successful with. Actually, if you want something interesting, if they wouldn't get sued by Meta for doing this, YouTube could seriously consider a face system similar to what Facebook and LinkedIn have. So that way, people, if they want to react negatively to a video, they can click an angry face or something, and that way it's someone's subjective opinion. It doesn't try to look objective or whatnot. Because a lot of video making is subjective in its very nature, just like the rest of art. If I think a video sucks and I don't articulate on that and expand on that, probably I'm not giving you very useful feedback on whether you should be watching a video or not, because your tastes might be different. You'd think like a multimedia nerd like me, I'd want things to be as produced as possible, so I like the glitzier, more polished videos, but actually I don't. I like the videos where the people involved are still down to earth and more realistic, even if their videos are lower quality. Something like that. I mean, I'm using a Nexigo webcam here. I've been thinking of swapping it out with some old tech video camcorders if I can find the right converter and whatnot to hook everything up with. But yeah, so anyways, this whole Linus thing really really brought all the toxicity that exists with tech stuff out of the woodwork. So anyways, yeah, dislikes. The dislike thing, in a nutshell, it's an algorithm button, and YouTube has officially said that it's an algorithm button. This idea that it's a vote system or some kind of way to keep people away from problem videos and things like that nowadays would fall under a lot of YouTube's content policies. Like, they don't want, for example, content that could cause harm to others and stuff along those lines. So the onus is on YouTube to do better with enforcing their policies than to crowdsource it to people with fiery opinions and then basically people are going to get taken advantage of because they don't know that just how easy these systems are to game, that you can program robots or something, or create Discord groups dedicated to like downvoting stuff that's about various topics. But I know it's a thing on Facebook, because it's always interesting when local news, which should not be going very far beyond this neck of the Connecticut woods, posts a controversial news story, and suddenly I see these people from New York, Virginia, Montana, and sock puppet accounts with no data on who they are, whether they're even a human being, suddenly going around trolling the living daylights out of the news stories. Look, I mean, technology has always been a bit of an arms race. It's always been a bit of an arms race here. So bottom line is, what YouTube is doing, trying to build a system to get away from people's biases and abilities to rig the system in their favor, is a noble idea. What matters is the execution, how they actually proceed to do that. So anyways, let's take a look at this Linus, the rest of the stuff, this Linus tweet. What was I going to talk about with this? So Linus got into a couple of hot stirring discussions when people called him out on Twitter. It also made its way into the comments section on his WAN show and stuff along those lines. But the truth of the matter is, either Linus was doing this as a publicity move, secretly doing this publicity move, or he's a moron. It's just, he should know where YouTube is going. He should know where YouTube is going. Then again, so should the big tech creators that took the wrong side in the dislikes debate. It's kind of sad, you know. I like to think that folks like Marcus Brownlee and Linus and Lewis are smart people, but the problem with, like I said back then, the problem with taking the wrong side in the dislike fiasco is that it outs that you are big on one kind of technology but not on another kind of technology. And what YouTube uses to run their platform is a form of technology. Full stop. If you supposedly are into technology, you should be following how these platforms run their stuff. You should be looking at the web design, the UI design for Twitch with their very superior left panel for finding live streamers to watch. And look at the algorithmic things that have been added in the lower left corner to help people find new streamers if they're bored with the streamers they're already watching. You should look at things like YouTube's matchmaking and get a few chuckles out of it with how you can look up something for research purposes and it messes with your recommendations for a couple of days afterwards. You know, it's really interesting stuff. But the thing is, from years of experience in the local, you know, doing tech stuff for the local warehouse folks around here, I can tell you some of the worst people I've run into that were supposedly tech people were people that were very parochial and not open-minded. They learned one thing really, really well and then closed their brains and were no longer interested in learning anything else. Sometimes to the extent that you could try and get them to be interested in something else, and they would basically, they'd get antagonistic towards you. They learned their one thing, they didn't want to learn anything else. It's all over. So to see this kind of behavior from people that are supposedly tech people is a serious problem. So you're big on computers, you're big on networking, but you're not big on ML and AI. You don't pay attention to your own platform that propelled you into the millions of subs. Now, you don't pay attention to what your own platform is doing in the direction they're going in, such that you could spot that the dislike change was basically just the continuation of something that was already going on at YouTube, where they want to get away from systems that people can game and move towards computers doing more stuff. How do you justify that? No, seriously, how do you justify that? You present yourself as some kind of authority on technology on YouTube, and then you won't entertain that possibility. You take the side of a bunch of emotionally wound up jackasses in the comments who have nothing to lose, because if they destroy their credibility, they'll just create another sock puppet account, and they'll start over. So you're willing to make yourself look like an idiot and somebody who is iffy on technology to side with people who just want to go around brigading all around the internet until they get banned, and then just make new accounts and continue until they get banned, rinse, lather, repeat. You want to do all that stuff. And so, since I've seen these tech people, that's why I'm so slow to talk about this Linus thing, because Linus is one of the people that took the wrong side, made me question his credibility. And I wasn't really all that fond of his format anyways. You know, he's actually one of the people. He's actually one of the people that I am skeptical. Well, not skeptical. One of the people that is the reason why I don't like cookie cutter YouTube videos, where it always has to be, this setup, $700 DSLR, studio quality stuff. It always has to be this and that and follow this specific ABC format in order to get views. And then the algorithms start to prefer videos like that, such that if you're creative and do stuff on your own, the very stuff that YouTube was built on, just people broadcasting themselves and expressing themselves, you don't get views because you're too different from what the algorithms are passing around. So, and there have been people that have come to my channel because I'm not a Linus person and I don't do things the way he does. So those people, there are people out there that are fed up with this crap, just like I am. And really, it shouldn't come down to a situation where people have to feel the need to copy a highly successful YouTuber in order to get views. Anyways. Now let's talk about the nitty-gritty of this and get people to leave because they don't want to hear the hard truth about all of this. At the core of all of this stuff is just plain selfishness. And that is a problem that technology has had for decades. When Steve Jobs, for example, visited that Xerox facility or whoever it was and came up with the idea for graphical computing with mice and pointers and stuff, Xerox didn't know what to do with the technology. They were focused on something else. They didn't recognize that a certain thing in their portfolio of ideas could fundamentally change how an entire segment of our society works for the better. And that's what you see from Apple with their innovation, too. Smartphones were already a thing by the time the iPhone was in development. They just had physical keyboards with tiny little buttons, and the BlackBerry was kind of the dominant brand at the time. But for the most part, people were using flip phones, and it was just kind of a question of what the form factor would be for smartphones. And of course, touchscreen technology got good enough that nowadays having a little computer in your pocket is a perfectly normal thing to do these days. So in that case, you had a situation where technology would have just done its own thing had someone not spotted some cool idea and then sold it to the general public, and it made life better. Selfishness has been a thing that and navel gazing, as some folks in the circles I run in would call it, has unfortunately been a thing with technology. Technology is a thing that makes society better. Now, when we have like set it and forget it washers and dryers, instead of having to fill a bucket with water and have the rough thing to rub the clothes against like you see in the old movies, when you can either drive a forklift in a warehouse or have a robot do that work, albeit slower, and not need a bunch of porters lugging boxes around like you see in Elder Scrolls Online in the port cities, people lugging big heavy crates of stuff manually. Think of all the different ways that technology has made our life better, and then think about how tech people just get so stuck up so easily. In the write-up that I posted on this over on my community tab and on my blog, I mentioned that I did almost work in a computer shop right out of college. There was a guy who was running a computer store, doing very well, been in business since 1995. He'd done a great job with his business. I walk in, trying to introduce myself to him because I'm a recent computer information systems grad, and he was a guy running a computer shop, and I wanted to work with computers for a living. And he all but runs me out of there when he finds out I'm running an AMD system at home. This is not the Ryzen era, by the way. This is pre-Core 2 Conroe. So this is during the time when the Pentium 4s at the end of their run were basically cooking computers, and the ATX standard had to be modified to put side windows in PCs for the first time because Pentium's just running hot as heck. So it wasn't enough to already have a system where the air would get blown out by the power supply if you didn't have case fans. But now you had to have air coming directly in straight to the processor because of how hot these things were running. So at that time, AMD, with AMD Athlon 64 and even my Athlon XP that I had at the time, was playing ball very well with Intel, while Intel was just making things that ran hotter and hotter. The capacitor plague was a thing, of course, across motherboard manufacturers back then, but AMD was very much a contender back then. They'd become a contender with the launch of the original Athlon, which I still have the processor cartridge over in the back. But I went in and I went in there looking for a job. He finds out I'm into AMD, all but runs me out of there. And then he has the nerve, remember this is in Newegg's glory days, by the way, get a drink in here. Then he has the nerve to make fun of Newegg. So this is a guy running a computer shop that hates AMD and hated Newegg. No, you don't want to buy from Newegg. They have a bunch of gray market parts on there. I'm like, really? This is from the day and age before the Newegg marketplace became a thing, when they were shipping everything themselves. And he was accusing them of being gray market and selling stuff they weren't supposed to sell. It's like, here's somebody who is jealous that people are building computers at home and not coming to him for the business. I'm like, no. Well, years down, I kept an eye on the business thanks to Facebook becoming a thing. And him eventually advertising his business on there. The one guy he got to work as his assistant running the computer shop wasn't paid for weeks because he took a vacation with payroll money or something screwy like that. Eventually, he got to the point where he was working on other projects and his assistant was running the store all the time. His assistant was like, well, if I'm running the store myself, why am I working for this guy? I'll start my own store. There was a whole bunch of drama and maybe even some lawsuits here and there because he just quit and then started his own business. And so there's a whole thing of, is he stealing my computer shop's ideas? There's a whole bunch of crap. Because this guy was so full of himself. He went to some Intel workshop or something in the late 90s or something like that. It got to his head, and he never accepted AMD. Not in the time I dealt with him. Well, what do you know? We talk about emotional windbags versus people that actually use their heads. Years down the road, he's anti-vax. He suddenly becomes a crazy anti-vaxxer, screaming and hollering about COVID is not real, blah, blah, blah. He basically takes the wrong side with COVID as well. So I'm like, wow, this guy, all worked up, emotional windbag, ran me out of his store 15 years ago because I actually liked AMD processors, was open-minded enough to acknowledge that something existed besides Intels that ran way too hot, and now this guy's screeching and hollering about the pandemic. I'm like, wow, gee, I didn't see that coming at all. So arrogance among tech people is something I can say that maybe it's a thing on YouTube, but it's not. It's a thing that exists in the offline world too. So when I see the things that people are saying, because Linus comes out and he says, "Oh yeah, if you don't let the ads run, you're doing piracy." Not surprised. Not surprised at the responses Linus got on Twitter. Not surprised at the responses Linus got on that WAN show episode on YouTube in the comments. Not surprised at the responses Linus got on Reddit from the threads in the PCMR subreddit that talked about this whole fiasco. I mean, he's unearthing something that I think us tech video folks need to very seriously take a look at in terms of how we treat each other. So let's recap the past couple of years. So even though I'm not as wild about ad blockers as I used to be, I've been taking notes on whether or not people followed through with what they said they'd do. There was one person that was like, oh yeah, I use an ad blocker, but if you had a Patreon, I'd throw you a couple bucks a month. So never really saw much for that. There's also the other stuff that I see, like I can't make a tech video without wondering if people are even watching the video because they're all showing up in the comments talking about their own systems. And I'm like, there's more to life than the computer you just built, right? Then how about this one? How about I build a system or tinker with a system and somebody totally hates that because they would do something completely different and they're just like giant essay because it's the end of the world that I did something a little differently than them. It's like, and then I see like people literally in the title, first build ever, they do something stupid and everyone just dog piles in the comments. This is one girl got into building computers. She makes her first build video and puts the heatsink blowing the air the wrong way. And everyone's going nuts about it. And I'm like, she probably would have noticed it when she was wondering why our computer was running too hot. Or when the processor was thermal throttling or something. She probably would have eventually noticed it as she got more experience and probably could have made a video like, haha, I was an idiot when I first built a computer. But no, people had to immediately get in her face about, you built it wrong, you built it wrong, you built it wrong. I'm like, yeah, that's really going to do something for the computer building scene on YouTube, or, more women in science and technology. That's really going to do something for that, right? Unbelievable. So, yeah, what happened to tech video people? You know, why can't we just be enthusiastic about whatever technology that we're dealing with and accept others as being enthusiastic into what they're into? So, the biggest paradox on my channel, of course, is the gaming stuff that I do. All right, so the computers that are running my gaming streams are monolith right now. Could be Tuxedo, could be any other machine. So I've got a paradox on my hands where I can endlessly tinker with the gaming PCs on YouTube, but never use them on YouTube. Because the views will just crash hard, because it's like I don't exist if I'm not doing just computer tinkering videos all the time. Explain that. So tinker endlessly, but never actually use the gaming PC and, you know, show off the fruits of my labor. Never mind that we're running into technical issues with hitting the limits on the processor by running ESO at max with NVIDIA DLAA and hitting about 70 to 80% processor, and things start stuttering because of encoding issues. That's not tech tinkering just because it has video games? When does this stop, folks? And so you may be asking, oh, how come you're not doing the tech videos like you used to? Look at the reasons. Look at the numbers, look at, you know, the responses, and let's look at this chat right here, right now. What kind of mic? So I just get going, I start talking about things. What kind of microphone are you using? Nice quality. Yeti Nano, which is proof you don't watch any of my streams because I talked about it when I got it. So, this is the same Yeti Nano I've had since 2020 when the Yeti I'd had for years had its mini USB break. So you haven't been watching, otherwise you would have known this. Where's the Delosaurus? Instantly. Boom, bam, boom. Can't do anything on this channel without, hey, where's the Delosaurus? You should know that the old Dell has been a footrest or a doorstop for years. It has no hardware in it. Let's see here. Dan's here a lot, so you know the stuff he talks about is stuff we can talk about any other. This is why I use an ad blocker. I don't have to sit and wait for 5 minutes of ads to play a 3-minute video. Hit the skip button. YouTube actually has it. Twitch, in the meantime, if you go over to Twitch, hard limits. They sell their time in blocks like a radio station. You need to. It needs to be like 30 seconds. It can't be like the 15-minute videos that are hijacking everything. Ad blockers have their uses for, you know, malware in ads, but that's more of a thing elsewhere on the internet. Not so much a thing on these video platforms. Yeah, you figure these video platforms have enough problems with ad blockers, they'd want to stay on top of their security in order to not have like a vast pop-ups when you go to watch a YouTube video or something like that. Let's see. Old Dell Dimension still running XP. It's nice to have kicking around sometimes. Sounds like Google wanted Google Plus to be, but you have to pay for it. Let's see here. And the rest is Dan, always good on reacting to stuff, basically making a lot of sense with all of this. Felt bad I didn't listen to the WAN show before commenting. Well, that's the thing with Linus, though. And look, yeah, mission accomplished. There we go. Mission accomplished. There we go. See what I mean? So, yeah, well, why don't you do as much with tech videos as ever? So here's the net effect of all of this, which Linus, by the way, has just unearthed. Here's the net effect of all of this. You spend years feeling like, well, in the beginning with YouTube, you could make anything because people viewed other people as people back then. It was the sense of community that Twitch now has nowadays. So, yeah, the sense of community that Twitch now has nowadays on YouTube back then. And so YouTubing was a lot more fun to do than it is today. People don't realize that people who notice this and whatnot with the way YouTube is are affected by it. And then that affects the content you get, whether you get it or not, what you see on the channels that you sub to. Linus didn't unearth anything new with this little fiasco of his. He unearthed something that was already there. And it hasn't been made any better by, now the stream's demonetized, so you know, if you try and chat about what's on your mind on YouTube and people give you a hard time and the systems give you a hard time. Brilliant. And the sad part is it's going to get remonetized when the extended processing finishes. This has been a problem with YouTube chat streaming for a long time. But there you go. So now let's suppose I didn't say what I said in 2017 about ad blockers. The numbers still dropped either way. See here. The numbers still dropped either way. And so when you're continuing the stories you told like 4 or 5 years ago and you're seeing like 100 views instead of 300 or so, you know, and you see your channel stop growing since 2018 and whatnot, that makes you want to do other stuff. Because when you get to the point where your videos aren't getting views, you realize you have nothing to lose. by trying new things. It's not like, say, if I had like something the size of even Adored TV or Greenham Gaming, they took things in a very different direction and people were insulted en masse and left. The numbers already had dwindled even before that happened. Let me bring up my community post to go over this and just make sure I cover the same points here. Let's see. Tech video toxicity has recently been absurdly exposed by LinusTechTips. He recently brought all the toxic tech video people out of the woodwork by saying using ad blockers is equivalent to piracy. I already knew this toxicity existed, but was looking for a big example so you folks wouldn't have to dig around the comment sections in tech videos where I've regularly seen this floating around. There's a crap ton of narcissism among people who are into technology, and I find it quite off-putting considering technology's altruistic nature of making life better for society. Tech narcissists are nothing new to me. When I first got out of college, we talked about that with the guy that ran me out the door at his computer shop. In 2017, I first started seeing tech videos getting a growing gap between monetized playbacks and total views, made a vlog about ad blockers holding back tech videos, got very angry comments, not unlike what Linus got today, people storming off and unsubbing. Well, January 28th anyways. And the tech videos have persistently been held back on the algorithm side of things since. It wasn't fun watching a washer and dryer video eclipse seasons and seasons of computer videos for years. But one of the unwritten rules of YouTube is that YouTube is what you make of it, and the viewers shape the landscape via their collective actions. If tech video people tank revenue for YouTube via ad blockers, I'm not surprised when YouTube systems focus on other stuff. In addition to that, let's also add, if tech videos make you feel like you're wasting your time on YouTube because you're attracting people whose interests are so narrow that you can't be yourself on this platform anymore, that's also a problem. It's not just on the technology side. The people side of it is just as important. Just that YouTube has more technology floating around to affect all of these things. So let's see. Let's move a few windows around here while we're reading the rest of this. These days, I know there are other things that stop ads, like viewing in embedded players or a lack of ad inventory. I've seen both of them before. Plus the size of the audience with nerdy videos versus mainstream videos, as we're seeing now with the food videos. But I know from comment sections that toxic attitudes are still floating around out there. So this isn't as much about the numbers as it is about, I know the attitudes are still out there, and Linus just gave me a huge reminder that this stuff is still floating around out there. And there's people that are watching tech videos that just don't care about the creator, don't care about what they're watching. All they want to do is just stroke their ego because they recently built a computer that they really like. I got news for you, a bit of a wake-up call. Corporate IT, if you're looking to make money off of your computer skills, doesn't do any of this stuff. Computers in corporate America today are net tops. They're appliances. And you look at things like cost structures, and if you deploy 30 computers in an enterprise or a school or something, you're looking at things like how much power they draw, how much that costs, the reliability of the hardware factors into costs of downtime. It's all business. Nobody cares how well you can water cool a system, because a lot of the time it's more worth it to just flip boxes and have people save their work on a server instead of local storage. So computers in the world of business and education have become appliances more and more. So your ability to build kick-ass custom rigs won't matter to corporate America. So it doesn't give you any real credentials at all, because it's better if you have a business background than a computer background in IT these days. And so that's one of the things that I think about when people give me a hard time, because I have a CIS degree, and yet I'm focusing more on operations as someone who's really good with computers in the local warehouse scene than going off to the city and trying to get into some tech firm, because we've all been outsourced by now. The only way I work professionally with technology is to join some stupid-ass contractor firm that'll be treated like garbage by the accounts. Now, you're basically temps plus if you work in entry-level IT these days. You need to be something like a systems admin or something in order to and anyway, maybe feel like you're part of the team. And even then, I've known some IT managers that were actually part of the companies they worked for that felt like they were getting blown off, or their budgets were getting treated like garbage, or they don't get any budget to keep the security up to date, but they get all the heat when there's a data breach. So, okay, so I'm a failure because I'm not professional IT right now. Am I? Let's look at let me tell you about another IT opportunity that I've blown off recently. A franchisor who runs a bunch of fast food restaurants in Eastern Connecticut and Northern Rhode Island was looking for an IT manager for $19 an hour, and you were going to be traveling between all the restaurants working on their stuff when it broke down, or remoting in or whatever, if you couldn't remote in or whatever. $19 an hour. I could load trucks for $18 an hour. Go to one place, drive a pallet jack, put pallets in a trailer for $18. Seriously. I saw, a couple of years ago, I saw an entry-level IT position for less than the easiest brain-dead warehouse job you could get around here. And it was in a smaller company. So, it was in a smaller company, so you would tend to get twisted and tied in knots and sent in all different directions. But 15 something an hour for entry-level IT when the warehouses were hiring at 16. So, oh yeah, you get your tech stuff. You get your nerdy tech background and your skills and your student loans, and you're making less than the guy driving a forklift. Congratulations. And we wonder why data security is such a problem these days, when literally we've spent decades treating computer people like garbage. So, think about it like this. Tech people get treated like garbage by everybody else. We shouldn't be treating each other like garbage. Come on, people. We should be, if we continue treating each other like garbage like this and not liking that person because they used a different processor or a different cooler or they have a different attitude on something than I do, if we keep doing this crap, we're never going to get anywhere. We're just going to be the nerds that were successfully devalued by society who now wonders why their credit card info keeps getting stolen. So, it's about uniting in solidarity, not picking each other apart because we like different processors or RAM or RGB lighting. Let's continue reading this thing. My channel has declined since the mid-2010s, I'm ad-libbing a little here, and was at its peak before all this stuff started happening. Its peak corresponding with before I joined the partner program in 2016. But even if I never monetized, the money side of YouTube would have been in play because I allowed ads to be shown alongside my videos even before being partnered. Yeah, there was a checkbox you could do if you weren't a partner back in early 2010s or so. So there was a checkbox you could, do, and I was like, well, the platform's got to pay its bills somehow. It's cool that they're letting us do all this for free when video hosting would have like bandwidth bills and stuff on competing video platforms back in the early days. But hosting video on the internet used to bankrupt sites that were trying to do viral media and stuff. They had to find a way to pay their bills. YouTube is very fortunate to have gotten Google to buy them, because they probably would have gone out of business otherwise. It's a bit hard to find old news articles on the internet with all the media consolidation breaking all the old links and stuff like that. But you go back to the mid 2000s. If you could jump in a time machine and go back to the mid 2000s, hop on some DSL or something, and see what people were saying about YouTube before they were bought out. People were wondering how YouTube would even survive, because if it grew too big, they'd have to throttle their own growth in order to not cost themselves out of business through the cost of delivering all this video. So of course it wasn't a problem for me to click something to let YouTube run ads alongside my videos. Nowadays, applied heatsink compound wrong, lol. Hey, I got my butter knife for a reason. Don't ever do that, by the way. Darn it, this stuff is spreadable. Hey, I can take jokes and memes like that, but I mean, if you're here to tear me to shreds, then I got news for you. I actually look up when you actually are supposed to use the dot, when you're actually supposed to use the line. But there needs to be more solidarity among tech people in general. Never mind tech video people on YouTube, because I can tell you the rest of the world certainly hasn't been treating us well. Let's see. How about all the memes about IT support where some screwball bozo will download fake antivirus because something like that. Let's keep reading this thing. Even in today's world, though, YouTube's right to monetize would mean ads would be a thing on my channel regardless of whether or not I jumped at that opportunity. So, though, monetization on my channel is casual. That's one reason why I've been blowing off turning on the membership turning on memberships as long as I have. I want to do it after a tech project, but not too late, too long afterwards. I know full well there's still a decent amount of traffic on here, but that traffic has gradually been getting smaller and smaller over the years. So it's a matter of, and there's something else going on with the pandemic right now, where people don't want to be reminded of stuff they can't buy. So there's a drop in traffic on tech videos that has even gotten the attention of some people at YouTube. Oh no, I forgot to plug my Ethernet cable, LMAO. Hey, how about people that don't know that there's a clip on those things? They just pull on the thing and destroy the Ethernet socket because they're like, oh, I'm gonna unplug this thing. How hard do you have to pull this thing to get it to come out? They take the insulation off it, or they rip out the jack completely or destroy it. Oops, that's hard solder to the motherboard. You now need a motherboard repair because it's not the 2000s anymore where people were still using network cards. These days, I know there are other things that stop at. Let's see here. What is it? These days, I know there are other things that stop ads, like viewing and embedded players or lack of ad inventory, plus the size of the audience with nerdy versus mainstream videos. But I know from comments sections that toxic attitudes are still out there. And that's how I know there was a lot of toxicity among tech video folks. This is one of the reasons it didn't surprise me when big tech video creators threw their credibility out the window by not understanding YouTube's own technology when they took the wrong side in the YouTube dislikes debacle for clout and to kiss their toxic audience's ass. I said arse there to be more Commonwealth, but come on, I'm a rough around the edges American. I'm going to use terms like kiss ass. Plus, we're demonetized anyway, so I don't have to... That means less and less, by the way, though. You still get ads when you're demonetized. Just all those family-friendly folks kind of back away. So there's still revenue to be made off of edgy people. And don't forget, channel memberships and supers. Just this week, I had someone post a comment bragging about their computer on a nearly 10-year-old computer video. Common thing these days. These people act like I've stopped doing stuff on YouTube when I'm not making computer videos, watch old videos, and leave comments that make me wonder if they even care about or whether they're watching or what they do. Just want to, or do they just want to use comment sections as a bulletin board to brag about their computers? But that's the thing. There's the old sounding brass, clanging cymbal thing. The old proverb talking about not having some heart with what it is that you're doing. It's people don't. I mean, if all you do is brag about yourself, that's off-putting to some people out there. You know, you're better off trying to stop bragging about yourself and, well, listen and understand people. Like those people that have never built a computer before that point the fan on the heatsink the wrong way, so it blows, into the case, not out of the case. And they're like, oh, they just don't know what they're doing. So wait till they find out when they wonder why their computer's running a little warm. So, of course, it would shut down anyways if it ran too hot. Like if they forgot the thermal paste or something. Been a while since I've seen a computer where someone had their processor set on fire because it just ran too hot too long and ignited. Let's see. For the record, I don't care what hardware you have in your computer, full stop. The only thing that matters is whether your system does what you need it to do or not. Monolith certainly does for me, though high-end streaming has been taxing it big time lately when I stream ESO. So, I don't watch Linus and have his channel blacklisted. I found out about this through third parties. That's why I'm so late to the party on this one. I found out this. I have his channel blacklisted along with other large tech YouTubers who destroyed their credibility in the dislikes debacle. I found out about this Twitter storm on his post via third parties. I'm not surprised though. There actually though are some tech YouTubers that didn't say anything about all that, so they still do good videos and stuff along those lines. And then there's tech YouTubers out there who don't even speak in their videos, like the Testing Games channel that squares off graphics cards against each other, and just literally the entire channel is videos comparing graphics cards and integrated graphics and stuff, like split screen on various games. Is that a tech video or is it a gaming video? Are you going to stop watching it just because it's not someone tinkering with a computer? And what about, I'm not interested in that game. I'm not interested in most of the games that Testing Games uses. I don't play Dying Light. I don't play Cyberpunk. I play mostly ESO these days. I've got Forza 4 still sitting around, but I haven't really done much with it because I've been so wrapped up in ESO. But it's just these attitudes we put inside our heads that prejudge others. It's just like, come on. This is why I consider tech videos to be legacy content as of 2022. I'll most likely be locking the format, like you've seen with the way it resembles 2015, and not being very innovative with it anymore whenever I still make tech videos. And if I make them, it is what it is. Yeah, if I don't have a tech project, I'm not going to go out of my way to make the most mundane videos out there just to have tech videos. Like, hey folks, I'm going to put a new heat. Hey folks, I'm going to bolt in an SSD. I think I can do better than that. Crap like this makes me sorry I ever got into computers. I mean, look at how people are treating each other. And the tech video toxicity I've dealt with has been the worst part of my 15 years on YouTube, full stop. That's why this channel is a multimedia channel and not a computer channel, but that's life. Much of life is managing what relationships you have with others and whether or not those relationships deserve to remain a part of your life or not. It almost makes me not feel so bad that I haven't had as many tech opportunities since college as I wanted to, given tech people being treated like garbage so much. But to see tech people treating each other like garbage is never a welcome sight. It's called divide and conquer, and we should be better than this. Let's go over some things in chat. 6:12 at the Geek House. We got to figure out what we're going to do for the remainder of the week. Of course, we also have the chores to do tonight. And then when things start to unfreeze a bit, I'd like to go chop the ice and actually go out and do stuff. Plus order stuff on Amazon so that the Amazon folks can get up the driveway without spinning tires too much. Let's see. Yeah, so you see what happened here? A bunch of people just mass abandoned even this stream because I wouldn't pat them on the back for using ad blockers. Look at this crap. So, look at this garbage. This is a microcosm for what the deal is with this channel, what the deal is with this genre. And quite frankly, I don't want that out of my YouTube. Or Twitch. I want to make friends, and I want to make some friends on here for Pete's sake. And that's really the humble goals that I have here, because I wonder about some of these bigger content creators, what kind of a mess they're going through when they should be all set money-wise with the numbers they get. Let's see here. What a nerd. See, wouldn't want to deal with the damage. I have a high school diploma. Friends is a forklifter. The nerds infight about little things. Intel and AMD, who cares? Applied heatsink compound wrong. Oh no, I forgot to plug in the Ethernet cable. See, these are the jokes that used to exist in the comment sections on the videos when people had a bit of a more lighthearted attitude and they weren't going to tear someone apart because they use a different processor than what they like or some stupid little detail like that. I noticed some videos don't have the date anymore. I guess to look at comments for age. Yeah, I need to get back into ESO. Well, ESO is a thing you either like it or hate it. ZOS certainly doesn't do a very good job advertising that game. It isn't World of Warcraft and it isn't Final Fantasy. And they don't have the real word of mouth to do it either. But anyways, I hope this stream has been a very accurate microcosm of all the problems with tech videos and why I have such a problem with tech videos these days. Because look at the attitudes. Look at people getting flippant and leaving. Have we got any dislikes yet, by the way? Because I didn't say what people wanted to hear. So, I mean, it sucks the life out of you as a content creator when you come on here. You try and put something good together and you end up with like Russian spammers in the chat or something. You know, they're posting weird stuff with the few English words they know and you're like, what? Oh, no dislikes. I'm very surprised. No, I'm very, very surprised. I might just dislike this myself. No. Dislikes come in waves ever since the count was hidden. I can tell because when hours and hours of streams that are a wide variety of content suddenly get disliked all at once on the same day, that's how I know it's just some bozo with nothing better to do and it's not a serious opinion. But oh no, that count needed to stay on the screen so that people could think it was something serious with the video and not somebody who's just like click, click, click because they had nothing better to do in their dorm room in college drunk at 2 a.m, getting back from a party or whatnot. No. And we wonder why YouTube wants to deprecate stuff like this. They just got to get the replacement working. That's the issue. Don't destroy a half-broken system to replace it with a completely broken, overly automated system. But there, see that? Bada bing. Right then and there. Told you. And, well, screw it. Put it on the screen. Screw it. Let's put it on the screen. Browser mode. Link it up to live control room. See this? There you go. There's the graph right there. There's the graph right there. And this is a microcosm of what things have been like for tech videos for years. Look at this. Yep. So what happened to tech video people? Why can't we just enjoy like videos people make? Why can't we just be friendly to each other and work together in solidarity? Why does this have to be some kind of us versus them thing? Because they used a different kind of RAM, they used a different kind of processor, they have a different attitude on this, they have a different attitude on that. What happened? What happened? Because I assure you, whatever rut you think that technology is in right now, we're not going to get out of it with all this infighting. When has that ever worked any time in history? Where the people that need to work together to make a difference just pick each other apart? When has that ever worked? What do we have for lifetime? Just a little over an hour. Well then, the chores await. And I hope that the message of this video, as well as, my response to Linus's debacle in general, tells the whole story on this matter. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.